Hey, I'm Tori Porter, and I'm the CEO and founder of iFox Fitness, where I online train dozens of women to get foxy by annihilating their stress and becoming a priority to step into who they really are as moms, wives of first responders, and military members, as women with big aspirations. I want each of you to walk away with a piece of power you can use to do the same. Each week, I'm going to go give you an inside look of what me and my Foxy Ladies are doing and how you can create and apply these principles to your regimen so you can step into your Fox mode, where you are most confident, your love life is booming, you're a master of your day, you are strong, feel beautiful from the inside out, and well rested. Why? Because a woman who can do that can do anything and handle much more. You ready? Hey guys, it's Coach Tori and Coach Thesha. Welcome back to Find Your Fox podcast. We took a nice little break after the holidays. So we hope that you guys had a great holiday season as well. Something that happened really close to the holidays was, of course, the Olympia. And this is something that all bodybuilders look forward to every year, and where we can really see like where the sport is going and just watch our favorite competitors. So we wanted to go over some recapping of what we saw this year and yeah, how we can expect to move forward even with COVID restrictions still going on this year. And yeah, just talking about the excitement of our favorite competitors.
Yeah, and I think it'd be really cool to address. We just had breaking news coming out from the NPC about how national qualifications are going to be going. I was a little confused when I saw it. I was trying to figure out if they needed more national athletes, if they wanted more pros entering, if they were trying to like cut down on this, like what exactly the NPC was trying to do with this new announcement. So if you want to explain kind of
Yeah.
what was going on.
Absolutely. So, when they put that out today, I think it was really apparent that they made the decision based on some new travel restrictions, because they have to consider all of the other countries for like North Americans and things like that for nationals. So I think they made it a little bit easier to qualify for natural nationals this year, because places like Canada, even they're all shut down. They only had like maybe one show last year. So I know for them in particular too, they've eased up on that so that they can go to like North Americans if they can, if they're qualified. But as for masters nationals, nothing has changed for them. You just have to step on stage as a masters athlete, period, and then you can go to masters still. But as far as NPC level, instead of having to place top two to qualify for nationals, they're now qualifying you if you make top five. So that can really help you this year, and I think it's really because there hasn't been a whole lot of opportunities for athletes to go to nationals because of everything going on.
Yeah, and I was kind of conflicted when I first saw it. Out where I am, we have a few big shows run by Craig Productions and Ribic, but we have some really, really small ones too, where the whole division, the person that didn't do as well got fifth because there were five people, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, is this really what we want to be doing? Maybe they will tighten their act up for nationals if they do see that, if they do get qualified for that. But I was expecting them to put out like the top 20% or
Hmm.
something like that, or the top percentage,
Right.
or scale it to your class size. Because I know that for like on both ends of the height spectrum, on both ends of the weight spectrum, for men's and women's, you can have smaller classes.
Hmm.
So I don't
Yeah.
know. It's kind
I
of
guess we'll,
interesting.
we'll see how it goes this year with these new qualification rules, but maybe it'll help some people out. Maybe it
Yeah.
will add an interesting an interesting thing to nationals this year. But I do like that they're being flexible with these times and still projecting and setting some dates in stone. I think that still they might switch the Olympia date for this year. Perhaps we'll see what happens, but maybe they will swap that. Depending on the year and how that goes. So we'll
Yeah.
find out. Okay, so let's talk about this past year's Olympia, 2020.
Yes. So it was more normal than I thought it was going to be. I thought
Yeah.
that this would be a very crazy event. We wouldn't see very many athletes due to gyms being closed down. I didn't really know what to expect about the lineup. The missing athletes that I was expecting to see: Danny Hester, Iris Kyle, and Flex Lewis.
Hmm.
And I'm not really sure exactly how that would have affected the placings of the people that were there. I was really excited to see Iris Kyle come back, but unfortunately, she did not
Yeah.
make an appearance for one reason or another. But it was fairly normal, you know.
Yeah.
Athletes that we were expecting to go were there, so.
Yeah, I was really surprised that they were able to like up and change the show from Vegas initially to Orlando. I thought that was amazing and how they presented the grandeur of the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just think that was amazing. I know that a lot of the athletes were very appreciative of that because they've worked so hard and like battled through everything this year. So I'm glad that they were able to still put that on for them because it takes a
Mm-hmm.
lot to get to Olympia.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was watching the meet and greet coverage, doing my live stream with I did the live stream service to watch it, of course. And a lot of them were coming out, like some of the athletes were saying like, oh, this is my last Olympia, and I know that some people were saying it was kind of lame for them to do that, especially after placing at the last year's Olympia because their demeanor was very disappointed and perhaps defeated. And that's for each athlete to decide on when
Mm-hmm.
to push and when to pull back. There was more of that this year. So I think it's just a turn in the pendulum as far as having some athletes that we expected to be there and not return this year. I just think that the athletes are coming in and then some older ones are kind of phasing out. And um, yeah, it's good for them to come out and be like, you know what, I'm gonna end it on a good note. And like, what better way to end on a good note at Olympia?
Yeah, and I think Casey's Instagram post kind of was very jarring for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And I don't know if listeners like go look it up. It's an Instagram IGTV video on her page, kind of recapping. And I forgot what place she took. Do you remember what place she got?
I know that she was definitely not first call outs, and I was
Yeah, I
surprised
think she
by
was
that.
second or
Yeah.
third. I'm not really sure. I
We'll
should
have
have
to
looked
go
that up
back and
before.
recheck.
I
Yeah.
know.
I don't know. I don't
Um,
want to like misspeak her placing because she definitely,
yeah,
yeah.
it was interesting to see her. And it'd be nice if like she made a video now. Kind of. That felt very raw.
Hmm.
That video, and after a month or two, kind of getting some, I don't know, see where she is at and where her headspace is right now would be interesting. But you
Yeah.
got to wonder how many other athletes that placed lower were able to get to such a high level in their sport and then just weren't hitting that mark. And
Hmm.
it's kind of like you got really, really far, but then not enough. And it's like that must be more frustrating than losing even smaller shows, and
Yeah.
not placing as well.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, to be at the top for so long and then all of a sudden, wow, I'm not even in the first call outs.
mm-hmm,
I did really appreciate that video that she did because I think it is important to share the transparency of like the feelings and the emotions that are involved with the sport because it's a lot. It's very competitive and it's something that it's their careers. They work hard for. Um, and yeah, I think it would be nice to for her to do like an update on how she's
mm-hmm.
doing, and maybe she hasn't. I just haven't seen it, but I was like shocked, but also like, wow, thank you for putting out a video like that because a lot of people can kind of get caught up in just the hype of being an Olympian, but at the same time, wow, it can really hit you and affect you in ways that really go down to your core. So yeah.
And I think we've seen more and more from professional athletes, like they get invited. I can't remember. I know Arnold's invite only, but I don't know if Olympia's, you have to qualify at other pro events, but when it comes down to it, maybe invite. But when you get invited to go to such a prestigious event,
Hmm.
like, why wouldn't you say yes? It was kind of what we saw with the Conor McGregor fight. When you get an opportunity like that to make a lot of money and put yourself back out there, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you do so, even when people are feeling not as prepared, or they took time off, or their mindset's just not in the right place? Like,
Hmm.
maybe it is better to sit that year out and be, yes, you are the athlete that didn't make that appearance, but at least you weren't the one that
Yeah.
further damaged your mental health in the
Yeah.
process.
It
But
almost makes you wonder, like, maybe she pushed a little too far,
yeah,
and maybe she realized that. And I think, calling yourself out on something like that is a good learning experience, for her and for, other, because
mm-hmm.
we learn by watching the pros. So yeah, I think that
Yeah,
was very responsible for her to come out and say something, and courageous, I would say too. So
yeah.
anyways, let's go on to men's bodybuilding. So
Mm-hmm.
Big Ramy got second in 2017, at like 290 pounds. He was really balanced and had a quad sweep. Um, and the second went to Curry, and third to Heath. I think the judges were focusing on the legs
Legs.
for
Yeah.
that deciding factor. Um,
It was kind of interesting to see the difference, because it was very clear in men's bodybuilding that it was all about the legs. They had very similar upper bodies and fairly similar waistlines.
mhm,
But, when you move, and we'll talk about this in classic, it was all about the waistline,
mhm,
and so it was like, what each one values. It was very, very easy to see
mhm.
where the judging came down to.
Right, right. And I thought like Brandon Curry wasn't too far off from when he won the competition last time, but like the legs again, big factor for sure. Ramy got, though, it's size, the shape, the conditioning they really, really want. And he kind of towered over Brandon for sure, but not to mention how amazing it is that he traveled so far during COVID. He definitely earned the People's Champ Award, I think.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
um but yeah, wow, the pose downs of the men's bodybuilding, they were intense. They were really feeling it. Like I was watching, I was like, wow, they're really celebrating. Like I felt the energy just watching it. So it was nice to see as well.
Yeah, and it was surprising to see him place in third.
Hmm.
I'm surprised that he placed as high as he did, but I'm also not as surprised to see that, I guess,
Yeah.
with
I
all due
mean,
respect.
right, right. I mean, like, man, he had two stomach surgeries, is what they
Yeah.
said. And he had like a break and he came back and still is in top three. So, like, that's huge to have that amount of time
Mm-hmm.
to recover from surgeries. Um, Haiti or Hadi, Hadi, I think is how
Yeah,
you
I
say
think
it.
it's Hadi.
Hadi Chupin had a really good routine and a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know you probably saw this too, like his abdominal area was like on point.
Yeah, it was like, I'm surprised that men's bodybuilding doesn't focus more on the waistline. I guess it's because the shoulders and the lats are big enough that it does create that taper that you're looking for, even if they naturally do have a wide waist.
Yeah.
Um, because um, I did not think that Big Ramy had a very, like, very tiny waist.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. Um, so I guess, he was really consistent across both days. So that really
Mm-hmm.
helped there, and he'd improved a ton. So he was four, so he dropped a placing, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the other category we could talk about is men's 212.
Yeah. It's one where you have to weigh up to or under 212 pounds. So
Very
you have
specific.
you have your 7 poses that you do. Um, this athlete is 5'8", and he was 177 on stage. which is actually fairly impressive.
Yeah.
I was surprised that he didn't hit like 200 on that.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm a little confused. Like when I think about, and I come from like, when you have a weight class, you want to hit right under the top of that weight class. So you want to get as high as you can without going over, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that not the goal in 212?
Um, I believe it is.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say this is probably a really hard category. You have to meet that
Yeah.
criteria, and again, like you can make or break it. So, I guess it was Sean who won that. He came in
Yeah.
at 177. So, um, I think he
And
represented
Flex,
it well.
yeah, in the past, Flex Lewis has won this one too.
Right. Yeah.
Um, it's designed for shorter competitors, like when you're 6 foot,
Yeah.
competing against people who are 5'8". Probably the 6 foot guy's gonna win. Um,
Yeah. It usually works
and
out that way.
and so this division was made for shorter male athletes,
And that's
to be able to compete in a more even division. So
yeah, make it a little bit more fair, I would say, streamline.
yeah,
But that's a lot of muscle on a smaller frame. So like it's
yeah.
still like a huge accomplishment. Men's classic, Chris Bumstead,
Mm-hmm.
now two-time Olympia. So again, vacuums coming in here. Him and Ainsley have a really comparable figure until it comes to again the abdominals, and Bumstead naturally had that smaller waist. So and he
Yeah.
said he's gonna go for a third. Like he's committed to going to Olympia again. So we'll see.
And I think everyone was really happy with, and I didn't see much conversation around, oh, should he have gotten lower? Should he, so, that one was
Yeah,
fairly clear on
who's
who was
gonna
winning
win
that
that
one.
one? Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. Um, men's physique. Brandon
Yes.
Hendrickson. What'd you think?
Um, really, really wide back. Very, very detailed physique. So he had won before, right?
He got so the notes that I have on him is like his back had a lot of width and detail, and that was definitely a strong point for him. But he's got his title back, so he made a great
Okay.
comeback. So he said he's gonna go back for a third too. Um, but yeah, he had lost it, but then he got it back.
Okay, gotcha. I'm
Yeah.
forgetting now who he lost it to.
Um, Shoot, I don't remember his name,
I can think of who the athlete is right now, but I can't think of his name at all.
but I know that Chiron, he got third again, so he stayed where he was at. Um,
Okay, gotcha.
so yeah.
All
Um,
right.
Woman's bodybuilding.
More in
So
our wheelhouse. Yay.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
Um, yeah, men's is hard because you're like, I'm still a woman, but yeah,
Yeah.
you have a different perspective when you're the opposite sex sometimes. But women's bodybuilding, I hear, they brought that back this year to Olympia, but if you look on NPC News online, they kind of did away with that. So I think they're kind of veering away from the scale of women's bodybuilding. It's the high one, it's the most muscle mass. It's up there for women.
And I
Definitely
don't
hard to
do
get
you
there.
know their specific justification for moving everyone in women's bodybuilding back down to physique? Was that just like a time saver? Was it like, because there are some seriously competitive athletes within that division?
Yeah, and I almost wish there was some way to know like how they feel about that,
Mm-hmm.
um with the sport deciding to make those decisions. But honestly, maybe it gives them some time to take a step back and kind of watch the sport or take a break. I'm sure that having that much muscle mass on a woman's frame takes an impact in some way too.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe some of them are happy about it, maybe some of them kind of sad. But I think that maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a reason health wise that they do that, as well as their focus right now on developing wellness. They kind of want to kind of condense people down a
Mm-hmm.
little bit and make sure that women's bodybuilding doesn't keep progressing past a certain point. That's just my opinion, I feel like.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'd love to see more on that and as to why. they made that decision, I guess. But
So Andrea Shaw
yeah.
won it. I'm fairly happy with that one. She looked really, really good on stage.
Hmm.
Really good routine too. Very defined back, which I think was a big part of it.
Yes.
What did you think?
Um, you know, I think that she definitely earned that placing. I mean, it's very, yeah, very hard to do. I just think that she nailed it.
Yeah,
Straight across
yeah.
the board. Yeah. Had a women's physique. Did you want to talk about fitness first or women's physique?
Yeah, Misty Truscott won. Um, we talked about her on a different episode, but
Mhm.
it was just a very energetic. She is able to bring such a high level of energy to the stage every time that she performs. Um, you had some stuff about Whitney. Would you like to talk about that?
I was glad that Missy won. And because you know, again, we kind of called it a little bit earlier. We're like, she's our favorite. She fits that criteria. But yeah, Whitney Jones, like that's hard to beat. I think you know, she's kind of known for fitness. Like she's been in this for a while, and Missy's kind of like that younger athlete, and kind of like has a little edge, like a younger edge over her in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think Whitney has a different pizzazz that I could tell was like a little bit more outgoing in her posing. And I think that the comparison of that and their physiques, the judges just were really looking for the best standard for obviously Fitness Olympia. So I just think that they had seen that a little bit more in Missy Truscott this year. She's very
Yeah.
elegant and poised in her posing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that really came out for her.
And she's willing to push a lot of limits for sure,
Mm-hmm.
as far as it goes. So she's
Yes.
definitely the what I've seen. A lot of people are really, really happy, and she actually grew up in Redmond, Washington, like maybe 10 miles north of where I am right now.
That's
So
so
a lot
cool.
of the people that I work out with have met her, or we're really, really happy to see someone from their town or one town over take that. So that was kind of cool to see.
Hometown win
Yeah.
for you. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, Women's figure, still a favorite category.
Mm-hmm.
Sydney Gillen, she like nails it every time. It's gonna take a lot for somebody to win over her physique. I think she's one of those few who are just like genetically gifted to fit that exact criteria, and that is why she's able to stay consistent with her
Mm-hmm.
conditioning and her championship in this division. What do you think?
Yeah, I was like, I thought that she was definitely the one that was coming in going to win for sure.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and the posing routine was really, really good for her. Very, um, very rehearsed for sure. Like
Yeah,
every athlete, when you see them get on stage, they've practiced their posing for hours and hours.
hours and hours.
So
Yeah, I think.
keep that in mind. Always practice posing. You don't,
Yes. Yeah, don't take that for time for granted. Like if you gotta fit it in after a workout or fit it in before or like at night, like sometimes I'll do it when I'm cooking.
Yeah,
You just have to, you gotta do it. You gotta have that muscle memory and just have that, because when you're on that stage for Olympia, it's like tooth and
yeah,
nail. It's edge and
and
edge.
yeah, and she does actually come from a bodybuilding background too. I believe both her parents are former competitors. I don't
Hmm.
know at what level, but it kind of helps to have that in the home and understand like what
Yeah,
all goes
she
into it at a very young age. So
yeah, the dedication and having that example, I'm sure that just really set her far in her division.
yeah,
Um, Women's physique. Sarah, I always used to pronounce her name wrong, and this is why in my notes I was like, oh, I gotta make sure that we get that out there because it's like Villegas, Sarah
yeah,
Villegas. It's the double L, and it reminds me of my Spanish class days where they're like enunciate as a Y with the
yeah.
double
Oh yeah,
L's,
yeah.
the Villegas. I love her look. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, it was really good. A lot of striations in the legs,
Mm-hmm.
um, which, so kind of the judging criteria for physique. and bodybuilding are very, very similar. It's just the amount of that makes the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what it is? And
Yeah.
so looking at her, the amount of striations that she had, it was very, it was a lot more than what we were seeing in the others, but not to the women's bodybuilding
Mm-hmm.
standards, if that makes sense. So she was like um, hitting the criteria of what the judges were wanting a lot more than the other competitors on stage.
Right, right. And yeah, I think Shanique Grant is like, whew, that like that one is a hard one to beat as well. So I think the main factor was like I was listening to her speech and she's like, yeah, last year, obviously clearly you could tell I was lower body dominant and that is a
Mm.
strong suit of mine. She's like, well, I just capitalized on that and I came back working harder on the other things that I needed to fix. And so I'm glad that she kind of turned that around and um, put that in her favor. So she had come back advancing everything else and keeping her strong suit at the same time, which is kind of hard to do sometimes with,
And
overcompensation and stuff.
yeah, and when you look at her back double bicep, I believe is the one, you can definitely see a difference between the glute ham tie-ins too. It's very, very crisp on her versus
Mm-hmm.
the other athletes had more of a gradual tie-in, which I don't think that they were looking for that as much.
Yeah,
So
her conditioning was really good. And I will say her choice of music was powerful. It was very
yeah.
fitting to her with the Katy Perry song.
Mm-hmm.
Very yeah, very strong. I loved that. So
Yeah.
let's talk about bikini, our favorite.
Yes. What did you think of Janet?
So Janet, I think she's definitely a great choice for
Mm-hmm.
Bikini Olympia. I know everybody was raving over that too. They're like, "Oh my gosh, great choice!" Because she's been working at it for years already, and
Yeah.
she finally landed. So very poised. I love her level of like sultry. It's like the right balance. It just fits, and her conditioning and size overall. I thought, like Elisa Piccini, she looked a little softer, so that's likely a contributor to her placing lower. But
Mm-hmm.
Janet mentioned how hard this year was, like in her victory speech, and she was like almost moved to tears. She was like, my dad got lung cancer at the beginning of her Olympia prep, and it was refreshing to kind of see her win and her commemorate the grind it takes to get
Mm-hmm.
even as a bikini Olympia, because some people can kind of like be like, oh, it's just bikini, but it's hard. And it took her 6 years, she said. So that's quite an amazing testament to resiliency as far as this year goes. And um, as a
Yeah.
bikini competitor, you and I, like, we love aiming for a similar look to hers, but I love the fact that, they're still very adamant. Like Tyler Manning just made a post about this past week. He's like, make sure you're not doing everything to copy your favorite competitor, but obviously the competitors are getting better, so that's why you're kind of seeing these changes in bikini even.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely the case. I think more focused on legs
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, the legs and between the upper and the lower body.
And it was good to see people without, like, she had abs for sure. I'm not saying that she didn't, but she did not have the defined six pack that I've seen when shows that were
Yes.
like NPC shows. And I see girls that have like six packs winning when they're saying, we don't want that look. We want a softer abdominal look while very toned and tight and fit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I had seen a recent interview with her coach, Kim Odo, and she was like, you know what? I just don't train abs as much because of
Mm-hmm.
that factor, and I think that's important to state. Any bikini Olympia or bikini competitors coming in, make sure you're not building out those abs because they really just want a tiny waist, tiny and flat. And I think, her mentioning, I didn't need a waist trainer. She didn't need that. She didn't really use that in her Olympia prep. She just focused on the training style, and I think that really helped her.
Yeah, yeah, that is for sure. And the last one that we're going to talk about is the prayer wheelchair.
This one, I mean, wow. I'm glad that
Yeah.
they create a category for people like that. And what's really interesting is that, um, he had originally started, so I think, who was with the Harold Kelly, King Kong?
Hmm.
Yep, 3-time champ. He had his pro card before his accident, and then
Yeah.
he was determined to stay in the sport, and then he came back into this category. So what a true testament to strength and perseverance.
Yeah, and just check out his Instagram if you want to see like his training regimen. It's very, very tough just looking at it. And it's also awesome because he's someone who's sponsored by Redcon One. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to see that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't wait to try the Redcon one stuff.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
recently your samples, so but yeah, I'm continually impressed by this category, and I love that they honor that. And I just like the training alone. Again, if you go to his Instagram, watch his training, and then also his ability to maneuver the chair and all of the posing, like that's an extra level of talent, I think. I can
It'd be cool
imagine.
to see like his coaching staff go on some kind of like podcast or make a video because to see, you know, what exactly they're doing and, you know,
Yeah.
learn from that.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool to see.
All right.
That
So,
covers our Olympia recap.
yeah, we have some questions. We're going to try and put out every few weeks an Instagram questions box and then answer them on the podcast. So
Yes.
submit questions. We're trying to get through them. So here's the question. What is your thought on waist trainers?
Awesome. Well, I kind of already posted a little mini thing on it. I actually have a waist trainer. I use a weight belt, and sometimes I use a Squeeze Me Skinny, or like something similar to like a Sweet Sweat band. But the thing about it that, I'm always saying is like, don't use it to the extreme. It's really an optional measure or an aid. And for me, tend to just use it at the tail end of my prep. Like I've had babies, like I have kind of a protruding, lower belly area just from that, and it tends to come out a little bit. So it's really just a posture thing, a corrective thing, or a comfort thing to support my lifting in the gym. Or maybe just sometimes helping to sweat because my body is just hard to sweat.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Daisha?
I think it's like not one option will get you a win, right?
Yeah.
But if it makes you feel better and it makes you feel more comfortable, by all means do it. And they'll say even on the package when you buy your waist trainer, it's like don't wear it too long and
Mm-hmm.
appropriate times to wear it. So follow the directions of whatever waist trainer that you choose.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say focus on a sweatband versus a corset
Yeah.
type trainer for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Or if you
Yeah.
do get the Squeeze Me Skinny, or like something similar to that, like on Amazon, I've seen some that have a little bit of the boning in them. Make sure that you are doing the proper measuring for
Mm-hmm.
whatever brand it is. Like, don't go to the extreme again. Don't try to make a goal to keep buying smaller sizes, because you're putting a lot of stress on the organs. You can really disrupt your digestive patterns. It's
Yeah.
really not healthy to do that. And also, I had seen from a judge before that they're like, you know what, it can really even distort the frame too much, having too tiny of a waist in comparison to the rest of the proportion on stage. So if like you're really going after that, you can kind of make yourself look too Barbie-esque, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah. And it's good to kind of like keep up with um, what I mean. Listen to what pros are saying. Janet was saying she didn't use one, and obviously that worked for her.
Mhm.
Um, you are obviously going to be your own competitor, bring your own attributes to the stage, but there is something to be said about the advice that people at the top give.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing more and more when you go on forums, when you hear interviews with pros, that they're kind of going away from the era of topicals, era of waist trainers,
Mhm.
wetsuits, things like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen, I don't know if you probably follow her too, because she's kind of moving up in the sport, is Ashlynne Brown. She
Mm.
posts a lot of videos using her waist trainer, but I like the fact that she capitalizes on the use of it. So
Yeah.
she's particularly showing that she's only using it for the days that she feels like she needs that support. And that's
Yeah,
kind of like how
exactly.
I've been using that too. I would say, if at all, that you do tend to, or you do want to use a waist trainer, the times that you would do it is like on your upper body days where you're really doing pushing overhead movements or things like
Yeah.
that, where you want to engage your core properly for mind muscle connection, or during your posing. So you can help really train that into you with the posture thing, or
Yeah.
even cardio
Yeah.
sessions. But yeah, it can prevent you from having the mobility in your waist to even do exercises. So it's kind of it's one of those things you have to pick and choose when is the right time to wear it.
Yeah, it's definitely moderation for everything, and not one thing will get you a win,
To
you
that
know?
stage, yeah.
It's like you can't rely on only, you know, only thermogenics, only waist
Fat
trainers, only
burners,
topicals.
yeah.
It's a combination of those. And
It
yeah,
always comes down to diet and training and sleep and recovery.
yeah,
But yeah, great questions. Keep them coming towards us, everybody. We'll keep putting out the answers to these, and we love
yeah.
your engagement. So I hope you guys found it helpful to listen about the Olympia of 2020, and we'll see how this year unfolds, and we'll do next year's coverage.
Yeah, and hopefully it'd be kind of fun to do something where we're watching videos of maybe prejudging or night shows of smaller shows, and then talking about like trying to get in the head of the judges and say like maybe this is why this person got moved here. Is it a matter of posing, physique, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like kind
So
of guessing what they're gonna do or why they did something.
yeah.
It kind of puts you in a mind space as a competitor too when you're watching and experiencing that. Like, okay, like I understand and I know like on stage, like when that happens to me, like maybe I need to fix a certain thing, or like they're looking at a particular attribute or flaw. Um, so I think it can
Yeah.
help. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be cool. Well, everybody, I hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you on the next one.